All right. Hannah, I think we'll go ahead and start
Okay.
and then monitor as folks come on. I'm still looking for a few more members of our team, but we'll move ahead because we've got folks I think that can respond to most issues and some of the new information we're going to present tonight. Both Rich and Noreen are here. So, well, let me welcome uh, everyone to the town hall for uh, the Assets, Property, and Legal Working Group of the Mission Shaped Future. My name is Janet Forbes, and I have co-convened this group with Philip Carden, who is from Salt Lake City. Both Philip and I are members of the Mission Shaped Future guiding team. So we've been a part of these conversations since annual conference last year, or last actually 2 years ago, when we got the go-ahead from both conferences to pursue a plan. So he and I have worked with folks around the assets, liability issues, property issues, and legal issues, getting ready for the proposal that's coming to the annual conference in Ogden. So let me begin and introduce the members of the team who have done this work, and some of them are with us tonight. Um, Again, Philip Carden from Salt Lake City and me, Janet Forbes. We've been members of the Mission Shaped Future guiding team, and the guiding team spread its work to facilitate the work of 6 working teams. And we are I think, the 5th working team to make a presentation. The Leadership Excellence Group will have their town hall on May 21st, and they'll be the 6th team to announce. And then I think the session planning teams are having the last town hall on May 29th, in which they're going to have an old-fashioned pre-conference briefing. I really love that we're going back to that format to get, if anyone wants to catch that on May 29th, but we'll come back to that. So the members of the APL, Assets, Property, and Legal team that are here tonight are David Burt from Billings. David has been our staff member to this group, and he is assistant to the bishop and a superintendent in Montana, and will be coming to the heart of Loveland. Yes, he'll be making a transition this July. So David Burt, I can't see David, but if others can, wave. Good. David Nielsen, I'm still expecting. David is the chancellor of the Yellowstone Conference, and he indicated that he would join us tonight. So he and our chancellor from the Rocky Mountain Conference, Rich Marsh, have worked closely together in the work of the Plan of Union. So I'll introduce Rich Marsh. Rich, if people can see you, if you would wave. He is the chancellor, or the lawyer, for our legal work and for the Rocky Mountain Conference. Also, who is supposed to be on this call, and I don't see her yet, is Nina Hagans. Nina is the president of the Rocky Mountain Conference Board of Trustees.
I think
And
her phone is showing up, so I think
oh,
she
good.
joined us. So
Wonderful. Nina, welcome. If you can hear me. Nina's partner, Jim Barth, who is the president of the Board of Trustees in the Yellowstone Conference, they have worked very closely together, but Jim had a last-minute issue in his church come up. They're having interviews for a position that came open in his church, and they came up tonight. So Jim will not be with us. And then we have Noreen Kalesian. Noreen is the treasurer of the Rocky Mountain Conference. And Noreen, I know you're on the call, if you would wave. And Noreen's partner, who's been working closely, is Anita Sass, from the treasurer from the Yellowstone Conference. Noreen and Anita have been most excellent in this process of us creating, planning to align all these resources toward the new proposal. Let me introduce Hannah Shepard is our communications specialist on the call tonight, and she'll be managing Zoom and reminding us if we need to mute ourselves when we're not speaking, and which is one of the processes to keep background noise down. And she'll keep us kind of technically good. And this is Hannah's, I think, her first Zoom meeting to oversee tonight. Charmaine Robledo, our Mountain Sky area communicator, was going to join us, but she's not well tonight. So we'll keep Charmaine in prayer. The other team members who are not on the call, the two chairs of the Conference Councils on Finance and Administration, Kirsten Barlow from the Rocky Mountain Conference and Maury Adams Griffin from the Yellowstone Conference. Both of them had conflicts in their local churches tonight, but Noreen will be able to respond to those questions relating to finance and administration. And then Jeremy Scott, who is our esteemed leader of the Mission Shaped Future, had another conflict tonight, and so we let Jeremy manage that other conflict, and David is kind of acting as our staff person, David Burt, for our town hall tonight. So I think that's my introductions. And Philip, I think you're going to lead us in a prayer.
Yes, if all of us would join in prayer at this time. Creator God, thank you for this opportunity to be together. Thank you for leading us to this place. Bless all who have joined us here. Continue to guide us, direct us, and lead us to help your United Methodist Church in our area to be all that you would want us to be. In the name of Jesus the Christ, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Philip. And Philip's going to come back a little later on and moderate the questions. What Philip will do is receive your questions and then see if there is a team member present who can respond most carefully to the questions and comments that you bring. Hopefully we've got most all of our areas covered, and if we can't answer a question, we'll try to find someone who can post town hall and can get back to you. Let me just remind you that our written report can be accessed on the Mountain Sky website. That's www.mtnsky.org. And we have a 4-page written report available to everyone that came out about 10 days ago. And we're going to add a little bit more information to that report tonight. Because we have noticed that our group is basically the last kind of planning team to pulling all of the conversations together about the proposed new conference. Because our task was to develop the plan of union that will bring together the assets, properties, and legal functions of both the Yellowstone and Rocky Mountain conferences to ensure that resources and relationships are aligned toward the mission of the new conference. And we have talked about that, about reigniting a Christian movement that begins with grace, offers abundant life, and reclaims the life-changing love of Jesus Christ for all people. It's been fun to see that there are some groups that Bishop Karen has been meeting with that are going back and doing more deep work around the mission. So it's really fun to first begin with mission and then get into the weeds and look at the details of what it takes to manage the assets of a new conference, and then come back into the questions, the big questions of mission and purpose and principles and values. So it's been a rich conversation. We want to bring some new information tonight because there are some things that are just still in process. We are hoping that, and we're planning for everyone to have copies of everything before Ogden.
Yes.
I'm thinking we should go to you.
All right. What would you like me to talk about? Oh, I see. Writing of the Plan of Union.
You were going to talk about the new information about the property and liability insurance as of the trustees meeting, and then about the Plan of Union and what it entails and when it's coming out. And then if Noreen is not back on, you can talk about the budgetary stuff that's in the Plan of Union.
All right. So the insurance information that we had when we put the report together 10 days ago has been updated. Church Mutual did not have its final numbers together until late last week, and the Rocky Mountain Conference Board of Trustees sat in session, regular session yesterday. We were joined by Anita Sass, who's the Yellowstone treasurer, and spent probably 2 hours clarifying a tiered approach to property insurance, similar to what Yellowstone has currently for approximately 70 or 72 of its churches. And thus we were not in a position really to report what I'm about to say. We will be changing the Plan of Union to provide that local churches will keep their current insurance plan through December 31 of next year, 2019. That's number one. And number two, we will be changing the Plan of Union to provide language that authorizes the Mountain Sky Conference Board of Trustees to implement a conference-wide property and liability insurance plan effective January 1, 2020. That is the change to the current language in the Plan of Union, which was posted last Friday. All right. Whoops, not hearing you.
Yeah, will it be a tiered? Because that is, yeah,
Yes,
that stays the same.
To implement a tiered plan, yes.
So that is a shift from our report to what will actually go in the Plan of Union. Talk to us about the Plan of Union and what that is and how that will be used on the Saturday morning of annual conference.
All right. The Plan of Union will consume most of the plenary on Saturday. There's 2 plenary sessions on Saturday. We will bring the Plan of Union forward with 2 separate petitions. The first being what's entitled a Declaration of Intent. This is a simple petition that asks basically, shall we proceed to consider this Plan of Union? And it's intended at a 5,000-foot level to elicit not discussion on the contents of the plan so much as whether people want to move forward with considering a union between the 2 conferences. That's the first petition. Think of it as a concept petition or a declaration of intent. Assuming that petition passes, then the next petition will consider the Plan of Union section by section, and we will perfect, it's called, that's a word of art. We will amend or perfect that Plan of Union section by section with amendments allowed to each section as it moves forward. Those sections are, again, in the plan as posted, but they are, I'll just read them. The first section is vision, values, and purpose. The second section deals with the composition of the conference and corporate affairs. The third section deals with the conference structure and staff. The fourth section deals with the stewardship of property. The fifth section deals with clergy support. And the final and sixth section deals with the budget and connectional giving. Again, if after that plan is perfected, there will then be a general question as to whether we shall accept the Plan of Union as perfected. If it is perfected, and there's a majority vote necessary from both conferences. on both petitions. So we will be sitting in joint session, both conferences together, Yellowstone and Rocky Mountain respectively. We will have electronic voting machines that will allow us to be counted as a Yellowstone member or a Rocky Mountain member, clergy and lay respectively, so that we will know the vote on each amendment and on each overall vote by conference. And again, we need a majority vote. Hope I haven't totally confused you, but we need a majority vote to pass the concept petition and then to pass the petition to approve the plan as perfected. Assuming the plan is approved as perfected, generally speaking, there may be some other steps in here, but generally speaking, at a point thereafter, we will adjourn the Rocky Mountain and Yellowstone conference sessions and immediately convene the opening or uniting session of the Mountain Sky Conference. After that, there will be additional business that will be brought to the floor, but that's Saturday. So bring your coffee.
Now, this plan of union has it been posted for the entire conferences, both conferences?
Yes, if you go to the petitions section of Mountain Sky, I believe I even found it on Rocky Mountain. It is both petitions that I just described are posted. And
Great.
I believe it's RMC, YAC. Well, each conference is bringing forward the same set of petitions because each conference has to consider them. And so I think it's YAC, MSC 01, and RMC, MSC 01, and then 02, respectively.
Wonderful. So they're available. Yeah, normally I think Charmaine would have put that out as an email blast, but she's homesick. So this is new information that the plan of union is up.
It was posted Friday, I believe.
Oh, good. Good.
Yeah, this is Young Suk. Yeah, so we posted on Friday afternoon. And then,
Good.
yes, Jenny, you are right. We were going to send out an email blast, standalone email with this information yesterday or today, and then just, it's coming. It's coming soon.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Well, with Charmaine sick, she's the one who kind of holds our communications. So
That's right.
good. I'm glad that that's on and that everyone can access it. It's Rich, it's quite a stunning document. It's a stunning document.
Right.
And I want to thank you from not only personally, but from the assets, property, and legal, and from both conferences, that it is a wonderful document, and you've just been masterful at pulling together all our narrative work, narratively, and putting it in legislative form and in form that is congruent with the Book of Discipline.
So I'm just sharing the screen.
Yes, very nice.
I just wanted you to take a glimpse of it, and it is in the petition form. So this is a RMC 02 and YAC 02, and then this is how it looks, just like any petition. And then here, page 4, plan of union starts, and then table of contents and all the rest.
Marvelous.
Okay.
Marvelous. Thank
So,
you.
Young Suk, let me ask a question.
Mm-hmm.
The version you just posted or just showed us does not have the line numbers by page, and I guess I hadn't noticed that. Well,
Okay, hold on. Let me see.
I just want to make sure the version that we work with on the floor that Saturday has lines. Otherwise, we're going to get confused.
So, Rich, whenever we were editing it, Charmaine had me go ahead and take out the lines on the side, but I can post the version that does have the lines if that's what you need.
I believe that's a good idea. It'll be the way people refer to it.
Right. So Hannah, let's do it. Okay, let's put the lines back.
Sorry.
No, thank you. So I'm glad that I just showed, this way.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, sure. So this, as Richie said, people can access to this from both RMC and YAC websites.
Marvelous. Well, it is quite a stunning document. We've had a question related to property insurance from Kama Hamilton Morton in Billings. She says, will the updates from the Plan of Union about keeping our insurance through 2019 be available in writing for us to share with our boards of trustees?
You want me to
So-
answer that?
Yes, please, Rich.
Yes, I've spoken with the Rocky Mountain Petitions coordinator, David Omri, and we will have a similar conversation with his counterpart in Yellowstone. We know that there will be changes made to the Plan of Union as we refine the information approaching conference. And rather than post all of that information each time we get it, we are thinking once weekly to post. So I am planning by this Friday to share that information with our petitions coordinator here, David Omri, and we will also share with the Yellowstone petitions coordinator to provide the updates to the Plan of Union. There won't be all that many. I don't want to make it sound like that, but the insurance is clearly one change that needs to be published. So the answer to your question is yes, and it should be done by this Friday.
Good, good. Thank you, Rich. Let me see if Noreen is back on. Do we-
Janet, can you hear me now?
Yes.
All
Yes.
right. Very good. I'm sorry, I don't know what happened, but I got out and I got back in again. So here we are. Okay.
Will you talk to us about the budgeting process for
Yes.
as it is unfolding?
Yes, I will. As initiated by Kirsten Barlow and Maury Adams Griffin, the two presidents of the respective CFNAs, we have created a joint CFNA to work on the Mountain Sky Conference 2019 budget. And that group consists of Kirsten and Maury, Anita Sass, the Yellowstone treasurer, and myself, Dennis Shaw, who is the statistician of the Rocky Mountain Conference right now, and Bruce Berger, who is a lay member of the Rocky Mountain Conference CFNA. So essentially a group of six of us. We have met 3 times. Right now, we are proposing that the revenue assumptions be made consistent with the connectional giving formula that is currently used by the Rocky Mountain Conference. So I will say the feedback we heard loud and clear from Yellowstone folks was that they were not necessarily in favor of retaining the more traditional expense-based apportionment model. And in fact, I think I might say across the denomination in the US, more conferences are moving towards the income-based connectional giving model. So the recommendation is to do that. And as it mentions in the Plan of Union, based on evaluating the ESRA statistics of both the Rocky Mountain Conference and the Yellowstone Annual Conference, we are going into the 2019 budget year with a proposed revenue connectional giving budget of $6.5 million. So that would be the combined budget of the Rocky Mountain plus Yellowstone conferences as a new Mountain Sky Conference. That is a little bit less than the combined budgets of the 2 conferences in this year, 2018. So we are keeping that as low as we can. And the budget is built, as you'll see when we are ready to present the budget details, the budget is built around the missional priorities of the conference. And so it's organized as congregational vitality, community engagement, leadership development, communications, responsible stewardship, transition and culture activities, and all with the underlay of connectional giving support to the greater church and our jurisdiction. So we're still working out the budget details, and those we should be able to share, I'm quite certain, within the next week or so. We're still finalizing the numbers, and then we'll come up with a narrative that explains what's in there and all of that. Meanwhile, each conference, if the vote is no, each conference itself needs to have its own budget for 2019. So Yellowstone is bringing its budget for the Yellowstone Conference for 2019, and we are just finalizing with our Rocky Mountain Conference CFNA the 2019 Rocky Mountain Conference budget. So there'll be actually, for those who enjoy reading budgets, there will be 3 budgets available to be read and digested. I can't hear you, Janet. Have you muted yourself?
I did. Here I am.
Okay, there.
Okay. I think unless we have, I'm just going to turn this over to Philip to be the moderator of our kind of comments and questions and so forth. We have another hour together. So Philip, if you will receive questions either for Noreen about budgeting processes or to Rich about the plan of union or the insurance pieces. Noreen will also know about the insurance pieces. But then anything else related to our report, anything else from the bigger picture, we may not be able to answer, but we know people who probably could. I want to thank Young Suk for being present and posting that plan of union for us. That was very good. Thank you. So Philip.
Yes, Janet. All right, ladies and gentlemen, if we have questions or comments or any kind of work together, please feel free to share. Speak up. We have our communications folks that can put you to the front of the screen, so to speak. Looks like Margaret. Margaret, are we seeing something off of your screen? Okay.
Okay, no, I'm having a little problem with it, but I did have a question earlier. When Rich Marsh was talking about implementing a tiered plan, I'm wondering what that meant. If we go back to that conversation.
Rich, should I say something about that? Rich, are you there? Can you hear me, Margaret? Noreen?
Yes.
Okay.
I can hear you.
So let me say something about that, and Rich can kind of jump in if I leave anything out. So we actually learned about the concept of this from the Yellowstone conference. So Yellowstone actually has set some insurance requirements based on the size of the church. So we have, and we have initially asked for this from Church Mutual Insurance Company, because they are at this time the company that knows the majority of our churches, frankly, across both conferences. So what we have done is we have looked at the property coverages, and we have 3 tiers that are based on the valuation of your church. So in assuming that your valuation of your church, and also looking at giving you the opportunity to look at your size of your congregation and your income, you have would have the opportunity of selecting a smaller coverage amount that might be more appropriate in certain areas. There are certain coverages that, regardless of the size of a church, liability coverages, we firmly believe everybody has the same risk and should be and needs to be adequately covered. But there are other coverages that can be tiered based on the needs of a smaller church, a more medium size, and a larger church. And so that's what the tiering concept is, which of course will serve to bring your premiums down. And then as a conference, we would also have the opportunity to have an umbrella policy that over several coverages provides several $1 million of extra coverage should anybody need it. And that cost of the umbrella coverage is shared by all covered churches.
Okay, thank you.
Margaret, did that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah, thanks.
Margaret, I still have your screen on my screen.
I can't figure out what's going on. I think I might just go. I have to leave in about 5 minutes anyway for another meeting. So,
Margaret, down at the bottom, there should be a little green button that says share screen. If you click on that again, it should go away.
Okay, I clicked on that and now I just see all the names of people who are on. Sorry, don't bother with me unless you're seeing me.
You're fine.
Okay, I'll just listen. This is strange.
Okay, well, while Margaret is working with her computer, what other questions do we have? Anyone?
Phil, I see Emily
I have a
has a.
question.
Go ahead, Emily.
It's actually Amy. I don't know if I'm the one that you called on. I'll just say real quickly, I don't have a question. I just want to extend my appreciation to your team for the incredible work you've done. Just the pre-thought and the documents that you're generating and the video that helped us get ready for this meeting. Just want to express a lot of appreciation as an outsider to the process, to the good work you've done to get us ready for these big decisions.
Oh, thank you, Amy. We appreciate that. Thank you. Who's next? Emily.
Yes,
Yes.
I have a question. I have one question about apportionment and then another question about district assets. So the apportionment, I heard that the income-based formula is recommended. I understand that. But I know that there was a petition to evaluate 10% rather than 13%. I know it was a study. What's the result of that study?
The Rocky Mountain Conference, CFNA, did convene a task force to take a look at that. And the task force made a recommendation to CFNA regarding the apportionments. Of the task force members who were in attendance at the particular meeting when we voted, there was a majority who voted to go down to 10% on the Connectional Giving Task Force. CFNA considered the impact on the ability of the Rocky Mountain Conference as well as the Mountain Sky Conference to achieve the ministries that we have on the table and the work that we are supposed to be doing to benefit local churches. And at this time, CFNA does not approve of that petition. So you will see a petition. It is It is coming to the Rocky Mountain Conference. It is not approved by unanimous vote by CFNA. CFNA has given its reasons, and so you'll see a petition.
Emily, did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Did you have a
Question that I
second
have-
a question?
Yes. My other question has to do with the district new ministries team here in our area. And I don't know that everybody in the whole call needs to know about it, but I do need to know where in the plan or the structure does assets related to districts that may have different boundaries, what will that do? Where do we relate to?
Rich
I
Marsh,
am
can you
not-
do that?
I don't understand the question.
Rich, I think Rich is raising his hand.
Okay.
Well,
Let's
I
have
had
Rich.
I had a question as to what you mean, Emily. When you say assets related to the district, what do you mean?
The Peaks and Plains has assets in the new ministries team currently. It's
All right. So I, in one of
And
my
so I
final
just-
drafts, in one of my final drafts last week, I had a section dealing with district assets. I asked the question of the team that was reviewing what I was doing, do we have any districts that have any assets? I got an answer that was no. So I took that out. I can certainly put it back in. All right.
Emily, it would be helpful if somebody would tell me what those assets are, because I'm not aware of them.
okay, and actually it's been created as a separate 501c3, so it may not be a district asset at this time. So that's where I don't know, but it does involve the Wellington campus.
Oh, that is not,
About.
you're talking about the Peaks and Plains New Ministries Council?
Yes.
That is not Rocky Mountain Conference assets.
Okay, so there still seems like that should relate to a larger body. It would have related to new ministries at the conference level. That's not happening anymore. So I'm just curious, what do we relate to?
I don't know that we can answer that question. I think the Peaks and Plains New Ministries Council should answer that question. But that does bring up a point, Rich, that maybe that group should be on the affiliated entities list.
Yes.
Yeah,
Agreed.
that's what I'm thinking.
And all
Thank
right.
you. That's fine.
Can I say, Rich, you say something about what that affiliated entities list is, and there'll be a listing for both the assets that come together?
We have prepared lists for both legacy conferences, if I can call them that, and the lists are affiliated or related entities, and we will simply list those entities or bodies, and the plan provides that the relationship shared with the legacy conference will be the same relationship with the Mountain Sky Conference.
Yeah, that group should definitely be added to that list.
Yep.
What type of entities are on that list?
Well, we have campuses, we have camps, we have some specialty groups like Denver Metro Ministries, which is itself still incorporated and still has a small budget of its own.
The foundation?
Yeah, the
Foundation.
foundation.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I can't, I really haven't
Yeah.
studied the list. You prepared the list. Maybe tell me what else you remember adding to it.
Camps and campus ministries and our relationships to hospitals, clinics, colleges, universities,
Yes.
social agencies, those kinds of things that are our partners in some way, and we have relationships. Some have assets, property assets. Others are a different kind of relationship. So it does sound like, Emily, that's a good place, at least to get it into the system of the picture of the family, and then work that out as needful.
That's good. Thank you.
We had a question from Jeff Babb, and I would address this probably to Noreen. He asked, is there's, and pardon me, is there still a pension liability for either conference?
Well, there's always a pension liability. The whole denomination has a pension liability, Jeff. I think what you probably want to know is a portion of the liability that is unfunded. Would that be the question?
Yes, that's the question.
Okay, very good. Yes, the Rocky Mountain Conference, and I'm not going to get these numbers exact, so please excuse me, but the Rocky Mountain Conference at its most recent valuation, which was a valuation as of December 31, 2017, the liability that we have is in the vicinity of, let's say, $9 million, $9 to $10 million. The amount of money that we currently have in an asset account to cover that liability is $5.5 million. So there is an unfunded portion of the Rocky Mountain Conference commitment to its clergy for retiree health care. I'm sorry, I'm talking specifically about retiree health care. The Yellowstone Conference retiree health care at this time is fully funded. I will say, though, that the Clergy Excellence recommendation is that in 2020, the Yellowstone clergy moved to the Rocky Mountain Conference retiree health care arrangements. And that will, and we don't know yet how much the new liability will be. And until we combine our assets and decide how we're going to use those assets, those pension and health assets, we don't really know what portion of that total liability will be funded. That work, looking at pension and health assets and reserves and liabilities, is the work of a group called the Joint Distributing Committee, which is a committee required by the discipline. It's convened by Westpath, and it has 3 members of each of our conferences, plus the 2 treasurers, and that group will start its work very shortly. Regarding pension assets, the pension liabilities are all covered by both of our conferences. Yellowstone's pre-82 plan is funded at 141%. Rocky Mountains today is funded at 137%. The CRSP plan and the ministerial pension plan are denominational plans. They are funded at the same level across all conferences. They are not individualized by conference. And those are both funded at approximately 105%, which is a percentage set by Westpath. Does that adequately answer your question?
Yeah, that's good.
Thank you. Sure.
Thank you, Jeff, and thank you, Noreen. All right. Who do we have? What is our next question? I don't see anything in the chat box at the moment. So who would like to bring one up verbally? Don't everyone speak at once.
I have a question about salary support.
Please go ahead.
So we offer salary support in both conferences, and what does that budget look like, and what will it look like?
Jeff, when you say salary support, are you talking about minimum and equitable compensation grants?
Yes.
Okay. So minimum and equitable comp grants are actually, as I understand it, a disciplinary requirement. If they are determined to be required by the Commission on Equitable Compensation, they must be paid by the conference per the Commission on Equitable Compensation. I have to admit, I can't speak to what Yellowstone's equitable comp grants have been in the past. I don't think they've been very high. It has been a desire of both of our conferences to keep those amounts very low. And over the past several years, our amounts have been very low. $4,000 a year, 0 1 year. I will tell you in the 2019 budget, what we actually have done is we have omitted some of the items that are contingencies that we would think of as budget placeholders that are in the budget just in case we need them, because it has often turned out that we don't need them. And so they basically take up space in the budget. And the question really is, should you budget for placeholders? Or should you actually maybe have a designated set-aside fund that you draw on when that item is needed? So I'm going to tell you that the 2019 Mountain Sky Conference budget for equitable compensation is 0, because we would consider it a contingency budget. However, the CF&A group has an absolute commitment to fund it from reserve funds or something else in the budget that was in there that it turns out we didn't need to that extent, because it has to be paid for. So we did not set a target amount, because in that case in particular, you always have to pay whatever the commission determines per its disciplinary requirements is appropriate.
So I'm under the impression that the Yellowstone Conference salary structure is different, and it's going to be phased in to match the Rocky Mountain salary structure. Is that true?
I think that was described, am I right, Rich, in the plan of union? I believe actually there is going to be, after the vote, there will be a group that reviews compensation issues and salary structures and develops a proposed equitable compensation structure. I think for right now, we're retaining the respective structures of each of the conferences. Am I correct, Rich Marsh?
Yes. So Jeff, if you go to the plan that's posted, go to section 5. I mentioned earlier, that's the clergy support section. And it's on page 14 under minimum comp standards, starting in line 17 on page 14. And it provides that the minimum salaries will remain the same in the 2 legacy conferences through July 1 of next year, with the provision for what Noreen mentioned, that a team will be put together to come forward with recommendations for implementation next year.
So my question still is, aren't the salaries in Yellowstone across the board kind of lower in places? And how's this going to hit Yellowstone in 19 when suddenly they're brought back up? What's it got to do to their budgets?
Factually, I don't know the answer to that question as to whether Yellowstone salaries are on the whole lower than Rocky Mountain.
I'm going to ask if David Burt can speak to that, because we were surprised in Clergy Excellence Group that there wasn't that much difference in the actual salary levels, because with local pastors and part-time and so forth. It was not as dispersed or disparate as we thought. David, do you have any background on that? David Burt?
Yeah, thank you, Janet. I wish I did. I have not studied that as much as the folks that are on the Clergy Excellence team have been doing that. But that is my understanding as well. Of course, we've got some that are, perhaps considerably lower than what Rocky Mountain pay compensation is, but we also have, some good appointments and good compensation there. We have not had to use our equitable salary commission for the last several years in any way to bring up minimums. That's a good question, Jeff. I think that this team that's going to be working this next year, they're going to be needing to take a look at how this gets phased in and what the impact on local churches is going to be. But again, sort of across the board, like Janet said, I think there's less discrepancy than perhaps a lot of us were led to believe.
I believe I heard something about health insurance costs being actually lower in Yellowstone. Is that true? That they may be hit with, if they join our health insurance, that the premiums are going to go up for them.
I don't think that that's necessarily true. I think our costs are about the same. Noreen could probably speak to that. You're muted there, Noreen, but insurance costs between both conferences currently.
And the plan going forward in 2020.
Are you talking about health insurance?
Yes.
Oh, okay. The cost of health insurance? So it's hard to know that because we get our premiums. So let me just step back and say both conferences are on the Health Flex plan, the Westpath Health Flex plan. The Rocky Mountain Conference plan provider is United Healthcare, and the Yellowstone plan provider is Blue Cross Blue Shield. We have had Westpath do a disruption study for us, and they have determined that we will have the minimal disruption if everybody moves to Blue Cross Blue Shield. So that's what we would plan to do. This would be effective in 2020, not in 2019. It would be effective in January of 2020. We receive information from Westpath on our plan premiums the previous February, March. So in February, March of 2019, we will find out from them what the premium cost will be for both conferences to be on the same health insurance plan. So right now, we don't know what the impact is going to be on the premium because the premiums change every year. Yellowstone's costs right now do not include dental. So there will be a change because we will be adding dental for everyone, and Yellowstone right now doesn't have dental. But we can't really speak yet to the rates because we don't know what they will be.
Do we end up paying people's, does the conference, either conference, end up paying some on insurance or pension that's not paid? Does this happen in both places, and how much?
I don't understand. Explain your question, Jeff, if you would.
So if I'm a local church and I'm small and poor and I'm not keeping up on my pension payments or my health care, does the conference step in and help pay those?
Oh, the famous arrearages.
Yes.
Yes, the conference pays those. I will say that Yellowstone has minimal to no arrearages.
Wow.
I don't know how they do it, but it is definitely something that we can learn from. Rocky Mountain has historically had arrearages in pension, in health insurance, and in still carrying a little bit of it in property insurance. And that is something that our conference really needs to deal with. And if not before we come together, the new CFNA is going to have to deal with it. But I'm sorry to say the arrearages on insurance are on the Rocky Mountain Conference end. And the majority of it actually is kind of, it's the old 80-20 rule. The majority of it is probably in less than 8 churches.
Jeff, did that answer your questions, or you have something else?
Yeah, I seem to have questions all the time. No, that was great. That was good.
Yeah, and to echo what Noreen says, as I'm, vice chair of CFNA, if you've got any ideas as to how we fix this arrearage situation, please speak up.
I'll be right back.
All right. Anyone else? The next question for someone, whether it be for Noreen or Rich or one of us, or maybe Noreen's cat could answer. I don't know.
I have another question, but probably Noreen's, and it's about the cost of annual conference by location. I've asked now for a year or two about the cost of annual conference. It's very difficult to get numbers. I know our church is going to pay, last year we paid about $1,600 to send 5 people to annual conference. This year we're going to pay close to $5,000 to get everybody up there. It's 2 extra days of travel. And I know there's a clump of churches in the Denver metro area. I counted over 106 within an hour-and-a-half drive. And when you add in all the deacons and people who are beyond the local church and cabinet and moving the office up to wherever you go out of town, I would think it would be good to see some hard numbers about what it costs to move annual conference around and around, what it costs to have it in Denver. Are there any such numbers?
Jeff, I don't have those numbers. I know that you brought the petition last year, and I recall that Dennis Shaw was planning to add that as a field in Ezra for people to report so it could be tracked. And I do not know the status of that. Philip, could that maybe be on a list or something to get an answer back to people on that?
Sure, we can
Status
start
of that.
a list. Yeah. Would Dennis be the person to garner that information, or?
Well, he would be about that one question. My question would be, what is the conference budget compared with the buses and the movement of your office and folks and housing? Is there such a number year to year?
Is Young Suk still on the call?
Yes, hi. Yes, I am.
So some of that might be in the conference budget for certain staff, but then there are other components of it that I believe would be captured in the budget for the annual conference session. Young Suk, do you want to speak to that?
Well, yes, overall, let me start by sharing how different annual conferences handle the budget or the income and expenses for the annual conference sessions. Some, I don't know how many, but some conferences have the budget in their operating budget. So in other words, then people do not pay so much for registration and so forth. But then to do that, you have to, we need to raise the apportionment, the connectional giving rate. But our Rocky Mountain Conference traditionally, historically, do not have the budget, annual conference in the operating budget. So 100% of the source of income for annual conference sessions are coming from people's registrations and whatnot. So that's the structure that we have. So now, having said that, wherever we hold the annual conference session, the cost is just given. As you may know, the hotel expenses and the meals, they are really beyond our control. And then, my experience, I mean, Janet, you may speak to this too. My experience has been that really it is hard to find a location that can handle 700 to 800 people, lodging and then meeting spaces. So we are limited in finding and identifying locations. So then we end up going to hotels. And we used to meet at Fort Collins, college campus. But in the recent past, we've been meeting at hotels. So those expenses are given wherever we hold the session. And then now, Jeff, you mentioned, you are asking about how much more or less it costs when we move the annual conference sessions from the Denver Front Range to Salt Lake City or Wyoming or Montana, wherever that is. So now I like to speak to the missional reason. We are, what I hear when I go to visit different places is that we are so front range bound. So it is true. It is true that we have more clergy and then lay people in the Front Range area. However, I like to remind us that people from Utah and Wyoming, I'm just talking about the Rocky Mountain Conference now, Wyoming and then Salt Lake City in Utah and then Grand Junction area, they come to the Denver area 3 out of 4 years, every year. Just think about their cost. So we need to, I like to invite us to just think about how clergy and lay in different regions are traveling for annual conference sessions. So by the Rocky Mountain Conference rules, we are invited or mandated to go out of the Denver area, Front Range area, once every 4 years. Oh. So we've been doing it. It's written up. It's written in the conference rules. So now that we are, okay, let me stop there. So this year, as we go to Ogden, we are renting buses. So the bus, as you may have seen in the annual conference registration form, there is no, we are not charging anybody for the bus. So that the source of income is coming elsewhere, and then we are asking people, we are kind of raising funds, differently. So bus is not affecting the registration fee at all. I hope that I answered some of your questions.
Uh-oh.
Young Suk, are you still there?
Yes. Philip, yes. Do you have questions for me?
No, you just faded off into nothing.
Oh, I'm sorry. I said, I hope I answered some questions, some of the questions that Jeff raised. Any other questions of me that I can?
Jeff, and I have written down that we will we will get you, comparative costs on the annual conferences. I will say on a personal level, from somebody that lives 500 miles away and travels to annual conference in the Front Range 3 out of 4 years, it is helpful to my church's budget and even my own personal budget to have conference local, for me at least this year. And I realize that, the preponderance of members, the preponderance of church clergy are all along the Front Range of Colorado, but it does give us a bit of more inclusion and be more inclusive to move it around to various locations. So, and it is conference rules.
I just have an economic question. But besides economics, there's actually an environmental question. And most people glaze over when I bring it up. But the more you move people, the more carbon you put out, and the more the buses are diesel and they're not perfect. And so they actually put out quite a bit of pollution per person. And when you fly, it puts out like 10, 20 times the pollution per person when you fly. So it's not just the inconvenience and the extra days of travel and hotel rooms for people to travel these distances. You're actually not doing the earth very, very much respect by doing this. And I realize there is a component where we do need to get out of the Front Range. I'm not against that. I mean, I think we do need to get out. But my problem is every time you do that, it's hurting a lot of things. The more people you put on the road, the more danger there is for their safety and their health. And it's just, it's going to get bigger, and it's going to stay that way forever if this happens. And I don't know that people take it seriously enough yet. Technology is changing. Another 10 years, this won't be an issue, I don't think. But for now, it really is an issue. And that's not a question, I suppose. That's a sermon. But sorry.
This is Youngsuk again. I don't think it is a place and time to discuss this now, but I think that we will naturally ponder on how else or how differently we do annual conference sessions. How we do now may not be the only way. So I encourage. I think there may be some other ways, and then I think that kind of discussion will naturally come. I don't know when, but in the future.
And Jeff, I might add that I own a plug-in hybrid car.
Me too, 2 of them. Yeah, but I still drive a motorcycle, which is a real pig. So, well, usually I drive electric back and forth to work. Solar energy, electric car. Out on the highway, it gets 36.
Yeah.
Used to be a Tesla, but I got tired of standing around the middle of nowhere charging. It was really boring.
Okay. Thank you, Jeff. We appreciate that. As one green car owner to another.
Yes.
All right. What other questions do we have?
So overall, there's no liability issues between the 2 conferences or issues about unfunded kinds of liabilities, things we're going to be responsible for in either conference in coming years?
Not that I'm aware of, but I would ask Noreen to speak to that. I don't believe so.
I think the only unfunded liability that I'm aware of is going to be in retiree health care. I can't think of anything else that, right now, I can't think of anything else. So
no properties, no camps, no buildings, nothing?
No, that's the only one we found. That's the only one.
Wow, that's good.
And it's the same liability we've known of for quite a while. This is not something new.
And it's shrinking, isn't it? Fairly fast?
Yeah, retiree health care?
Yes. Past liability.
you know, so let me just reiterate. The recommendation from Clergy Excellence is that Yellowstone retired clergy, current and future, move to the health reimbursement arrangement that the Rocky Mountain Conference clergy have starting in January of 2020. That is a more generous health reimbursement arrangement than Yellowstone clergy have today. So when we have a new valuation done in February of 2019, we will be able to find out what the new liability of a combined conference will be. And we will be able to tell you what portion of that liability is funded. But right now, we don't know what the total liability will be because we haven't had the actuaries move the Yellowstone folks to the new arrangement yet. And can I say maybe one thing that I think is good news is, as in many of these kind of liabilities that are commitments on into the future, it's not, you know, having an unfunded portion is not right now the end of the world because it goes on and on and on. And so what Westpath will require of us is that we have a plan in place to get it fully funded over the next several years, but it's not like we only have 12 months to do it. So I think the combined group will be able to, the responsible stewardship group will make it a priority to figure out a funding plan when we look at the total picture of both conferences.
Thank you, Noreen. Jeff, did that answer your question?
It did, yes, thank you.
Okay, very good. All right. What other questions do we have? I don't see anything in the chat box at the moment. So speak up. Okay. I'm looking across the screen, looking at other people. Don't see anybody waving. Hannah, do you see anything from your standpoint?
I do not, but I will, if anyone's thinking of a question right now, I will go ahead and say that if you want to rehear any of these answers, we'll post this video on the website. And so that'll just be on the Mountain Sky website under the Mission Shape Future tab. And then we'll also have another town hall next Monday for the Leadership Excellence team.
All right. Anyone else?
Is it okay if we end a little early?
Yeah.
Well, of course it's you know, for some
I was
of us,
going to say, does Rich have anything else to add? Noreen or Rich, they've been our experts. Anything else to add? We can end a few minutes early.
I have nothing to add.
I don't either.
I just have the one concern. You know, we had like 19 people here. This is going to be a whole lot of information to put onto people really fast. I'm just telling you where I'm coming from when we get there. This is a lot, and it's just now coming, like within days, minutes, that we have access to this, and it's a lot. So don't be surprised that people are extremely nervous. I think they're just going to be. I know I am. That's all.
okay. Thank you. That's understandable.
Okay.
We're trying to get the information out to people as fast as we can in a method and form that people can digest and understand easily. But then again, we can't force people to read things.
I think it's amazing the amount of work you guys got done. I think it's off the chart. It's unbelievable. But it's so much to comprehend. And I don't know what percentage of people who go to conference are regulars and how many are new. Do you know, Noreen, or anyone?
Not at the moment.
I'll bet it's over 50% that is our repeaters.
Returning?
Returning,
At least 50%, at least, if not 60 or 70.
Yeah.
Usually there are many returns.
Yep.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, from a lay standpoint, Jeff, I can tell you that, the half of the room that are lay people, at least half of those are there every year, and sometimes a higher percentage than that.
Yeah, ours too. Yeah.
Yeah, clergy are given, and then lay delegates. They are faithful delegates, and then they are experts. I mean, they know. I mean, they read. I'm very impressed by the way that they are so faithful in reading and digesting the materials that are coming to their way.
So what always troubles me is if you ask the average Methodist in either conference, they don't know what the conference is doing, and they especially don't know what the general church is doing. And so I explain it, and I'm sure you all try to explain it. But if you're not a part of it, it's like you're talking about a different world and a different reality. And so you don't really know how it impacts you or how it should or could impact you. You just know it's happening. And you may or may not have met the bishop, and that may or may not be an issue. And then you have the church dividing, and that may or may not be an issue. So there's so many things going on to try to talk about all at once. It's just all consuming. And I got to say, from a homeboy perspective, I don't even know if that's a PC word. To lose your identity, I mean, I've been Rocky Mountain Conference my whole life, right? And you've been Yellowstone Conference your whole life. And it's like getting married and losing your name or something. It sets you back. You go, ooh, I'm not sure I'm ready for that. So the dating process, I got to tell you guys, has not been great. But I'm a forward-looking person.
Can we count on your vote, Jeff?
No, you cannot count on my vote. No.
Oh, darn.
Well, that's not.
Rich, thank you for asking the question.
Yeah.
I know you too well, Jeff.
Yeah, there you go. Thanks.
Well, we can count on the fact he'll be voting.
Yeah, that's good.
That we can count on.
Yeah.
I've seen you.
Anything else for the good of the conversation tonight?
This is David Bird again. Just a couple of comments more than anything else. It's been interesting visiting with some of our retired pastors. They talk about remembering the old Montana conference, and then we became the Yellowstone conference, and they seem to say, whatever we are in the future, we'll be doing good. They've lived through those changes, so that's been kind of interesting for me to hear from some of the people that I looked up to in ministry as I was coming on board. The other thing that it's totally unrelated in a way, but I just want to say that we had 12 videos submitted for our video contest for annual conference. And these are videos that are highlighting mission and ministry throughout the area. And I got so inspired watching all of those today. And some of you folks are involved in some of those. I know, Jeff, your church is in a prominent video. So I just want to say, this nitty gritty detail stuff is all incredibly important. But at the end of the day, it's the lives that we are encountering and making a difference with. And I see evidence of that all across our area. And I hope people really enjoy these videos. And they're posted already on our Facebook pages. Get out there and look at them.
Thank you, David.
Thank you,
David and
Dave.
I were nervous about some time ago. Oh my, are we going to have any video entries? And now we have 12. Congratulations.
Wonderful.
You're not planning on putting those up on Saturday during plenary, are you?
Why
Well-
not? Oh, yes, we are, Rich. We are.
What we will
Saturday
do,
afternoon.
we will honor, we're having some judges judge the 4 best videos for content and sort of imagination. And we'll show those and honor those. There'll be some cash awards given out. We won't have time to show all of them during that segment, but they're already up and on our various Facebook pages. So take a look.
David, did you say cash awards?
Yes.
I did.
Grand prize for
Is that in the budget?
Is it too late to make an entry?
We're taking it out of the retiree health insurance.
Ah!
No, I'm not. I'm kidding.
It's coming out of David's salary.
Yeah.
All right.
Well-
Is there anything else for the good of the group?
I see Marv Vose has his hand up if he has a question.
Mr. Marv.
Phil, I'll be real short. I just want to respond to Jeff and say, I think the courtship has been going on forever.
Yes.
It was almost 25 years ago that Bishop Mary Ann Swenson sent about lowering the wall that existed between our two conferences. Janet Forbes remembers those days very well. It was like 1995 when I went to the first Yellowstone conference. And I got to tell you, it was like trekking to a different universe. There were radically different cultural values. And over those 20, 25 years, we have gradually lowered that wall and come to know our sisters and brothers across the boundaries. And so maybe it's coming to you, Jeff, recently, but it's been going on from my perspective forever.
Oh, my point would be that the details of it are just now coming together. Yes, it's been a long process, which probably made it even more painful, but to actually see what's going to happen, that's one issue. The other issue is we've already done lots of merging, like you just said. We've already sharing so many ministries, so many office procedures, ideas. We're already sharing. The wall is almost invisible as it is. So then my question is, why the next step? If you've already done most of the ministry already, why the next step? What is the benefit now of completing this marriage as opposed to living the way we're doing right this minute, because we have made the wall so invisible you can hardly tell it's there?
I could speak to that.
Good.
If we continued as our legacy conferences, there would be no reason for us to dig deeper into the way in which we do ministry. If we are happy with the outcomes we are getting in terms of discipling, then we probably shouldn't. But if we aren't happy with the outcomes we're currently getting together or separately, this is a moment in time, a moment in history for us to go back to zero and actually reinvent our life together with new goals and a new mission and a new focus, with resources going to the place where we might indeed get new outcomes. I don't think we're getting the outcomes that we want. I would like to see the opportunity for it to look different. And that, for me, is the reason this is a moment for us to do that, to actually intervene on ourselves and say, let's stop trying to do what we've always done and think differently about the call of God in this area. That's why.
So I believe that 1,000%.
Oh,
And that's a lot, except I think the focus is going to be local and by circuit and small. And that's the goal, is to force resources down to the bottom and give a better voice to the bottom. And I don't see how making something so gigantically large helps you necessarily to focus things down at the very bottom. In fact, I think you just have a bigger disconnect between the folks who are living in the local church and then the large, huge conference. And I don't think that disconnect is a good thing.
Well, I think that is one of the questions, is will we indeed live into a new vision? You know, we know that discipling happens on the ground where people are when they come together in congregations and extension ministries. And if this realignment doesn't change that, then Jeff, I'm afraid this has all been for naught. But this is an opportunity for us to try it and to hold ourselves accountable to this new vision and a new way to focus resources and to connect. I'm clear that Bishop Karen understands where resources go. If it disconnects, you met Amy Gerhardt. Actually, you didn't meet her. One of her roles is to make sure, she's about cultural transition, and it's to make sure that resources actually do connect, and that we've got a different flow of ministry. That's why she's here, and she's an outsider, and she can see it, and she can look at us. So she'll be here for a short term, but she's going to be one of those folks saying, listen, I'm not seeing the change you said you wanted. So hopefully we've got the impetus for new outcomes.
So her position, though, at the conference office, is it not? Isn't that what she was hired for, is to bring the conference office together and coordinate it?
The connection and the whole culture.
So my parents are from Missouri, and it's really deep in my blood. We're doing something that's not been done before by size. This has never been done anywhere by size. It's huge. And I need to understand how this size is going to help us at our actual goal, which is making ministry real at a local and small level.
What I think what we'll do, Jeff, is we'll learn from multinational companies who have been doing ministry globally in new ways, taking care of the customer who comes in the front door. And so I think we're going to have to learn from folks that have been dealing with large, we just got to think differently about what a judicatory looks like. Because, my husband, when he was working, he just retired, but when he was working, they had a staff meeting every Monday morning, and it was global. And he said he felt as connected to China and Chile as he did to his colleague next door in Denver. So I think that's the kind of learning we have to do. We have the ability to now, if we can just change the way in which we think. So, and I'm going to get on my sermon box. It's past 7:30.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's a question we should probably have over coffee, Jeff. Philip, if it's okay with you, I'll go ahead and close us out.
Go right ahead, Janet. Thank you.
All right. I was going to see. Oh, good. Our 15 folks still stayed while I got on my soapbox. Let me remind you, as Hannah did, that next Monday night, the 21st, Leadership Excellence will host their town hall. And then on Tuesday, May 29th, the session planning teams are going to host the last town hall in a pre-conference briefing style. And they're going to move through processes in Ogden, reviewing how to get there, what it's going to look like, what are the major legislation, the mission shaped future, and so forth. So May 21st and then May 29th. Want to encourage you to look at the Plan of Union on the website, mountainskyumc.org. And I want to thank you all for participating. This has been an incredible experience for us to get to know one another and to dive into the assets, resources, properties that are our rich geography. So thank you. And I'm just going to close with, may God bless you and keep you. May God's face shine upon you and be gracious to you. And may God look upon you and all of us with kindness. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Janet. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Rich. Thank you, Noreen. Thank you, staff.
Thank you.
For everybody
You're welcome.
participating.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Everyone.
Bye.